How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Westwood.1000. Today is January 15th, 2021, and I thank you guys for watching today. As today, we're going to focus on the major Midwest blizzard that's going to bring up to a foot of snow in some areas, potentially in the Northeast, and could bring a lot of blowing and drifting snow throughout the Midwest. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by first taking a look at the GFS model at this point, and we're at the point with this storm where pretty much we're very certain of what's going to happen. It's unlikely to take any drastic changes, or the forecast models are unlikely to make any drastic changes over the next several runs, as it seems as when we're within the 2-day window, it's the computer models are almost extremely certain at that point. There could be some small details where they need to iron out or they might miss out on, but for the most part, we get the general idea of what's going to happen when the forecast window is within 1 to 2 days out. And this is the case with this Midwest blizzard, because as of right now, it's impacting the Midwest. By the way, let me show you guys the current radar, and you see that snow is extending all throughout the Midwest. However, by the time you're watching this video, the radar should be pretty dry out at this point. It should be a little bit drier because there's going to be a point where this low pressure you see right here is going to slow down, and it's going to slow down to the point where it's going to sort of miss the jet stream movement as it continues to move on eastward. And as it does so, the low pressure is going to sort of be on its own island. You could almost call it a cutoff low at that point, because it's going to pretty much cut off from the jet stream, because the jet stream was the primary one steering it all the way southwest easterly to the Midwest. However, there's going to be a point where this low pressure sort of stagnates and just meanders over pretty much the same area of the Midwest, such as Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri, and it will sort of cut off from this convection line you see over there. And as a result, a lot of the moisture around the Midwest will dry up because it's going to lose a lot of contact with that convection that's towards the east of it. And it's going to lose it's going to lose that jet stream enhancement, which was the thing that was creating that convection and unstable air for this to work with and strengthen. So as a result, a lot of the moisture is just going to dry up in this region, and there won't be as much snow in Illinois and Indiana and Ohio, right around the Ohio River Valley, as a result of that. And the reason why this low pressure is going to linger and meander over the same area and dry up is due to the ridge. That's a small little ridge where it's so small that the computer models don't even point it out or don't really define it in their forecast map. So however, it is there, and it will slow this low pressure system down to a point where the convection is going to move. It's going to miss out on the jet stream, and as a result, this low pressure will weaken, and then a new low pressure system will form right along the east coast, which will overtake this original low pressure system, and this will be pretty much a center of convergence right around the jet stream, which is expected, since obviously along the jet stream there's a lot more unstable air, and it's going to be closer to a body of water where it'll be able to rise a lot of that water vapor up. So as a result, the snow is eventually going to dry up headed later today, and as a result, you guys won't experience as much snow as you might have expected based off of the current snow swath or you're seeing in the Midwest, where it's very broad at the time I'm recording this video. But by around noontime, you see that snow swath definitely dries up. The snow showers becomes more scattered, and a lot of the heavy snow bands are less numerous at this point as it pretty much dries up, and as a result, there won't be as much snow throughout the Midwest after, I would say, noontime on Friday, because a lot of the snow in the Midwest is just going to dry up, and a lot of that convection will move eastward. So by Friday night, most of the snow should be gone for most of the Midwest. There will be some snow showers, especially in Wisconsin, and maybe some scattered snow showers throughout Illinois, Indiana, and Missouri, right around the Ohio River Valley. But is it anything that will bring any more than an inch of snow? And you see a lot of that convection has transferred along the East Coast, and by Friday night, you could begin to see your first bouts of snow in Pennsylvania. So keep that in mind if you're around Pennsylvania. And then we begin to see a lot of that rain change over the snow late or very early Saturday morning. So this could impact you guys as early as late Friday night or early Saturday morning for a lot of us upstate New York, especially the higher elevations where you could see up to a foot of snow in some areas. And then I would say around the sunrise in New England, it's pretty much right at your doorstep, this snow, and it could dump a lot of snow, especially if you're in the higher elevations. And then it should pretty much end right around Saturday afternoon, right around 4 to 5 o'clock for a lot of New England and New York. However, upstate New York is, Maine is just beginning with the snow, so you could see a lot more snow there headed into Saturday night, which will be primarily the worst part of this. And then if we move forward, there could be that chance even towards Sunday, although the low pressure has moved well far to the northeast, there still could be that chance of lake effect snow coming off the Great Lakes, since obviously there's going to be a strong northwesterly wind with this. We already saw strong northwesterly winds bringing 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts in some areas in the Midwest, and that while that wind will weaken as it continues to move further eastward, as it loses contact with this as a low pressure loses contact with this ridge that was creating a strong pressure gradient between the two, creating those strong winds. That it's still gonna maintain some of its wind energy to the point where it could bring some lake effect snow from this. So definitely right around the lakes, I would say just off the coast of Lake Erie and more inland of Lake Erie and right around Buffalo and Erie, Pennsylvania, you definitely need to watch for a chance of lake effect snow, because those winds will be strong coming from the west, northwest in your area, and that will induce some lake effect snow, since a lot of air molecules over the lake will expand as a result, and as a result of that expansion of air, a lot more water vapor is able to the atmosphere is able to store a lot more water vapor, which will induce a lot of those lake effect snow bands. So keep that in mind in upstate New York and Pennsylvania. And in terms of how much snow you'll receive at this point, let me show you guys the forecast map, the current forecast map for in terms of snowfall and also rainfall. I'll get into, because that could be an issue in some areas where you could see heavier bouts of thunder showers through New England. But let's first take a look at the snowfall, and you see that additionally I'm expecting a good area of 3 to 6 inches. However, I want to point out in this map that I didn't update this map entirely. I would put this 3 to 6 inch snow swath a little bit further eastward, and I would take out a lot of the more westward, and I would remove a lot of the eastern portions of this area where you're expecting 3 to 6 inches down to 1 to 3, because I expect more of that precipitation to happen further westward. So just cut out, I would say, this area between the Illinois and Iowa border all the way through the, pretty much cut Wisconsin in half, and then you'll see, and then pretty much 3 to 6 inches should be expected in this area additionally of what you already experienced. So keep that in mind. 3 to 6 inches on top of what you already experienced, that could definitely cause even more havoc, especially Friday morning, where majority of the snowfall is going to fall. And then I expect a good area of around 1 to 3. I expect more on the lower end. I expect maybe 1 inch throughout the Ohio, just north of the Ohio River Valley, since there isn't going to be a lot of precipitation once this low pressure system that's currently bringing snow to a lot of Minnesota and Iowa weakens. So I don't expect there to be much more precipitation that would dump more than likely an inch of snow. And like I said, this low pressure that you're seeing right here will eventually jump into this area where the convection is a little bit stronger and the convergent energy is a lot stronger just off the east coast. So as a result, this low pressure system will pretty much jump just off the coast, just off the northeast coast, and that's where you're going to see most of the snowfall from here on out. As I expect in the higher elevations, 6 to 12 inches is definitely possible, especially more northward in the higher elevations where a foot of snow could definitely be possible in some localized areas. I wouldn't be surprised if you see even more than a foot of snow. So keep that in mind all throughout the Northeast. And in terms of rain, I'm expecting 1 to 2 inches of rain, which extends from New York City, Boston, and a lot of southern New England, where there's going to be a lot of thunderstorm activity as a result of this mid-latitude cyclone. This since like I said, this polar vortex is going to be very strong, and once that cold dense air interacts with that much lighter and um and more spacious air, it's going to force a lot of that water vapor upwards at a very quick rate, to the point where there's going to be strong updrafts, which will induce a lot of those thunderstorms. They won't necessarily be severe. The temperatures just off the coast of the Northeast aren't warm enough to really induce extremely strong updrafts and make it severe. However, it will be the updrafts of it along this cold front will be strong enough to really create areas of heavier rain showers and thunder showers, to a point where flash flooding could be the issue. As you see, by early Saturday, there's a large swath of rain, and you even see some of the reds and the yellows, which represent stronger than usual rain, and that even extends further to Boston and a lot of southern New England and Massachusetts, Hartford, Connecticut, and Providence, Rhode Island will be affected all by this rain, as I expect 1 to 2 inches of rain extending from New Jersey all the way through southern New England. So if your river is already borderline along its banks, then you definitely need to watch this, because the heavy rain could make those rivers could increases the possibility of those rivers overtopping its banks and flooding some areas. In my areas, unfortunately, that isn't the case, as the water level is still well below its banks at this point. So 1 inch of rain won't be enough to really overtop the river, but in some areas in the Northeast, it might be a different situation. So make sure to take a look at your river's hydrographs, or to make sure what floods, if you're in a flood zone or not, because it's definitely very important to just keep that in mind. Even if it doesn't flood during this event, you want to stay prepared for the potential next event, which we still don't know when it's going to happen, but it definitely could happen at any time, and at times when you least expect it. And even if there isn't necessarily the traditional river flooding, there could be that possibility of flash flooding. And with flash flooding, it doesn't matter how dry or how moist it's been in your area. Typically, all you need is just very heavy rain at a very fast rate to induce flash flooding. So you need to keep that in mind if you're along small creeks, especially where flash flooding is likely. So keep that in mind throughout southern New England and right around New Jersey and Long Island as well. So outside of this snowstorm, I'm also keeping watch of this potential major snowstorm that could happen in the Northeast. I'll go more in depth with that in the next video when we're a little bit closer to a forecast day, because like I keep saying in my previous videos, I typically don't like to make forecasts or make assumptions beyond 5 days out, because there's still a lot of time for the computer models to iron out the forecast. But you see, just past the 5 day mark, there's a broad area of snow throughout the Northeast, and this extends even further southward, where it impacts Boston and New York City a little bit, and it impacts a much broader area of the Northeast than this snowstorm you're seeing right now. So it's definitely something to keep in mind, especially as a weatherman, or want to be weatherman myself. So I'm definitely going to keep watching this over the next several days, and I might make a more in-depth video tomorrow talking about this potential snowstorm that could impact the Northeast, and I'll go more in depth with other storms that could happen, such as this rainstorm that's going to happen in the Southwest Western United States that could happen 5 days from now. But anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content.